Hey there. If you've had a long day, you're in the right place. This is your quiet corner of the internet where nothing is expected of you except to rest. Tonight, I'll be reading you a long, winding Reddit story. It's full of emotions, secrets, and little twists, the kind of tale you can slowly drift off to. You don't need to keep track of every detail. Just let the words wash over you. Let your eyes get heavy. And before you know it, you'll be asleep. So, tuck in, get comfortable, and let's begin. Aita for telling my sister she can't bring her partner to my wedding. I never imagined I'd be writing this, but here we are. It's a weird and tumultuous mix of emotions, and I really need to get this off my chest while also gathering some insight from people who aren't directly involved. I'm hoping that by sharing my story here, it might help me gain some clarity on a situation that's causing a serious rift in my family. My name is Claire, and I'm about to get married in a few months. I've been with my fiancé Max for nearly 4 years now, and we're beyond excited to tie the knot. Max is everything I ever wanted, a kind, supportive partner with a great sense of humor. However, the lead up to the wedding has been far from smooth sailing, primarily because of my sister Jenna. Jenna and I have always had a complicated relationship, partly because she's 5 years older than me and tends to have an air of superiority about her. For most of our childhood, she was the golden child, excelling in academics and sports, while I was just trying to keep my head above water. In adulthood, that dynamic hasn't changed much. Jenna is currently in a long-term relationship with a guy named Eric, and to be perfectly honest, I can't stand him. To be fair, I've only met him a handful of times, but every time has left a bad taste in my mouth. He's condescending and seems to constantly need to establish his dominance through obnoxious jokes and rude comments. I've seen him make snide remarks about Jenna's past relationships, her dreams, and even her looks. He masks it all with a smile, but it's painfully clear to those of us who know Jenna well that he's tearing her down bit by bit. Now, my wedding is meant to be a day filled with love, joy, and support from family and friends. However, I've always envisioned it to be a place of positivity where everyone contributes to that vibe. Naturally, I want my sister by my side, but I've been dreading the prospect of Eric being there. Honestly, it makes my skin crawl to even think about it. A few weeks ago, I decided to have a candid discussion with Jenna. I told her how much it would mean to me to have her at my wedding, but that I wasn't comfortable with Eric attending. I explained my feelings, hoping to convey my genuine concern for her well-being. I told her I wanted to create a safe, joyous environment, and I just didn't feel that Eric would contribute to that. To say Jenna exploded would be an understatement. She accused me of being selfish and trying to control her life. "You can't expect me to pick between my sister and the man I love," she yelled, her face turning red and angry tears welling in her eyes. I tried to reason with her, but it was like talking to a wall. The conversation quickly devolved, ending with her storming out and slamming the door behind her. I spent the next several days in a whirlwind of guilt and anxiety. Jenna is my sister, and it hurt me to see her so upset. At the same time, I couldn't shake my feeling of dread at the thought of Eric showing up on what should be one of the happiest days of my life. I thought I was being fair and protective of my own vision for my wedding, but maybe I truly was in the wrong. The fallout didn't stop there. Jenna hasn't spoken to me since that conversation, and my parents have been caught in the middle. They've attempted to mediate, but they're in a tough spot. They don't want to choose sides either, but have expressed to me that family is paramount, and if Jenna feels hurt, it's wrong for me to not let her have her partner there. Yesterday, I received a call from our mom who basically laid it out. "Claire, you have every right to want your wedding to be joyous. But Jenna loves this guy. If you really want her to be a part of your special day, you'll have to accept Eric." I was flabbergasted. "Mom, you know how he treats her. How am I supposed to just look past that?" That was the first time I'd felt anger directed at my mom. The things she was saying felt so dismissive of my concerns, as if she was negating my anxiety about Eric's behavior. I hung up and then spent the day thinking about it all while Max tried to comfort me. So now I find myself at a crossroads. I'm torn between wanting to support my sister and also standing up for my feelings about the type of environment I want to create for my wedding. I want to be happy, and I want her to be happy too. But can I ignore the red flags I see in her? Relationship? Admittedly, I reached out and sought the opinions of a few close friends, and responses ranged from full support on my side to a resounding, "You're being unreasonable." But no one seems to have a clear answer. Now I'm turning to you all for help. I don't want to lose my sister, but I also don't want to compromise the atmosphere of my wedding. AITA for wanting my sister to leave her partner off the guest list, or should I just suck it up and let it happen? The aftermath fast forward a few weeks, I still haven't spoken to Jenna. The silence was deafening, a twofold weight of guilt and uncertainty resting on my shoulders. I spent countless hours running scenarios through my mind, imagining her walking down the aisle without Eric, her bitterness hanging in the air like an uninvited ghost. Max was sympathetic, of course, but I could see the weariness in his eyes as I spiraled into yet another spiral of hypotheticals. "You need to talk to her, Claire," he urged one day as we sat at our favorite diner. "If you wait too long, it might be hard to mend things, especially before the wedding." There was wisdom in his words, and after a week full of sleepless nights, I decided I had to reach out. I invited Jenna for coffee under the guise of wanting to talk things through. I knew I needed to tread carefully, but also be honest about my feelings. She arrived, her expression wary yet guarded. As we sat across from each other, I could see the hurt behind her eyes, a reflection of my own. I opened the dialogue awkwardly, apologizing for the way things had escalated. "I just want you to be happy, Claire," she said, her voice quiet but steady. "But Eric is part of that happiness for me. I know he's not perfect, but he's good to me most of the time." Her words pierced through me. The truth struck hard. Perhaps I was giving too much weight to my feelings and not enough consideration to what her love for him might mean. "That's totally understandable," I responded, "but I can't shake the feeling that he doesn't treat you the way you deserve. And I'm scared that's leading you down a path that could hurt you. I just want you to be aware of that." "I appreciate that you care," she said, her voice steady but tinged with irritation. "But it feels like you're trying to control my life. I get that you have concerns, but it feels suffocating." She was right. I was so consumed by my own apprehensions that I hadn't acknowledged her feelings properly. In that moment, I realized I needed to step back to allow her to make her choices, however concerning they might be to me. "Maybe I could come to terms with him being there," I suggested tentatively. "But could we figure out a way to set some boundaries during the wedding? I want you to enjoy the day, but I also don't want to be uncomfortable." Jenna looked thoughtful, her face softening slightly. "I think I might consider bringing some friends along, so there's a positive vibe surrounding us. Maybe Eric could behave better in a more social mood. It won't be easy, but I'd like to try meeting you halfway." For the first time in weeks, we began to draw closer again. We spent the next hour exchanging ideas for the wedding and sharing past memories. Jenna even jokingly suggested Eric could learn a thing or two from Max's sense of humor. It wasn't a complete resolution, but we ended up leaving the cafe with some semblance of understanding, an embrace of mutual respect built on communication, even amid tension. A new beginning. The wedding finally approached. I decided to focus all my energy on preparing for the day itself, the stress and expectations slowly shifting into excitement. Max and I pored over every detail, and Etsy became my new best friend as I solidified personal touches to make the day ours. As the wedding day drew closer, Jenna and I communicated more frequently. Her reassurance helped reduce my anxiety as she casually mentioned she would come alone, asking to leave Eric behind. I wished she could admit or see the discomfort he brought into her life, but I appreciated her effort. The day of the wedding was magical, a pure dream. Rainbows had nothing on how I felt as we exchanged vows under a beautifully decorated arch with friends and family surrounding us. The love in the air felt palpable. While I caught glimpses of Jenna talking and laughing with our mutual friends, there was a relief deep inside me that maybe she realized her worth after all. as I walked down the aisle, hand in hand with Max. I caught sight of Jenna. For the first time in ages, she looked radiant, genuinely happy. I felt a wave of pride for her, to see her rediscover herself even outside of a relationship that often did her no favors. After the ceremony, we mingled, through cocktail hour, and I found Jenna adrift in our circle of friends. As I slipped through the throngs of people, I watched her charismatically encourage others to share stories as they erupted in bursts of laughter. My heart swelled at that moment. Amid the festivities, Eric managed to appear with an air of confidence, disrupting our harmonious energy. By that point, Jenna had dismissed any fear of his presence and looked empowered. Instead of retracting or retreating, she embraced the situation. Our eyes caught, and there was an understanding that surpassed words. And while the day had its challenges, occasional awkwardness, and the discomfort that Eric inevitably brought, ultimately, love prevailed. It wasn't the day that I had originally envisioned, but sometimes life is about compromise. In the weeks that followed, the bond between my sister and me grew stronger, albeit with those usual complications still in the background. Was I the asshole for wanting to exclude Eric? Well, maybe at the time, I was overreacting. But I realized that true love, whether for a partner, sibling, or friend, means acceptance. Little by little, the chaos settled and healing began, complete with my sister realizing her own power more and more. Somehow, we both emerged from that time renewed by love, stronger as sisters, ready to face whatever challenges were next on the horizon. In the end, maybe the answer was that there are no easy answers, but love has a way of unraveling threads, in unison. That's what makes every bond worth fighting for, even at the risk of losing ourselves. Aita for refusing to help my sister with her wedding plans. My name is Aaron, and I'm a 31-year-old graphic designer living in a small town. Recently, something has happened in my family that's left me questioning my role in it all. I have a younger sister, Mia, who just got engaged to the love of her life, Ben. While I should be over the moon for her, I found myself in a situation that's made me feel like the villain in my family's eyes. Hence, I've turned to Reddit. Am I the asshole? Mia and I have always shared a close bond, or at least I thought we did. Growing up, we were inseparable, often finishing each other's sentences and sharing our dreams under the covers as we whispered into the night. I've admired her for being the vibrant, free-spirited character she is. While I'm more cautious and practical, Mia has always been the one who dives headfirst into every adventure life throws her way. It's a quality I've envied and cherished. When Mia first introduced us to Ben at a family barbecue, I could see the joy radiating from her. He was charming, had a great sense of humor, and could hold his own in a family full of eccentric personalities. While I initially had some reservations, he seemed a little too carefree for Mia's serious undertones. Over time, I grew to like him. They brought out the best in each other, and soon enough, they were inseparable. When Ben proposed, it felt more like a celebration of the love they'd nurtured than a moment of shock. I took a few days to process Mia's engagement. With her, everything was always bigger, louder, and more colorful. I knew her wedding plans would be no exception. She immediately started dreaming up ideas. The venue, the colors, the flowers, the cake. Everything she could fit into her Pinterest boards. At first I smiled and accepted my role in what I thought would be a beautiful, collaborative experience. But then, reality hit. Mia and Ben decided on a lavish outdoor wedding at a vineyard about an hour from our town, which was a bit over the top for a simple family gathering, where I imagined her wearing a classic white dress and my parents dabbing their eyes with tissue paper. Instead, she opted for a design that felt ripped from a fairy tale. Consequently, she wanted everything to be Instagram perfect. As soon as they set the date, Mia started bombarding me with requests for help in her planning. Initially, I willingly lent a hand. I suggested local vendors for invites and decorations, created floral arrangements, and helped organize the guest list. But as weeks went by, the requests turned into demands. One afternoon, she called me, her voice bubbling with excitement as she tossed ideas for the color scheme around. "Aaron, what do you think about navy and gold?" she asked, clearly seeking my instant approval. I couldn't contain my grimace. The colors clashed with the natural hues at the vineyard, making it all seem gaudy, in my opinion. "You know," I said carefully, "maybe you should consider something softer, like sage green or blush. They might complement the natural scenery more." She wasn't having it. "But Aaron, I want it to pop." "You're always so safe with colors," I argued back, trying to make her see reason, but all it did was lead to a hurtful discussion that left both of us feeling frustrated. "I don't need your negativity right now," she snapped before hanging up the call. The rift that ensued shocked me. This was supposed to be a joyful occasion, after all. After that call, I noticed a distinct shift in how Mia communicated with me. Requests for my input became accusatory demands. It felt as though she deigned to allow my creativity, if it aligned with her vision. I began to feel like a lackey instead of a sister, and I found it increasingly difficult to juggle my work commitments and her growing list of urgent requests. For instance, when I told Mia I could help her with the seating chart over the weekend, she texted me a flurry of messages that read more like an order than anything else. "No, Aaron, it has to be in alphabetical order. And make sure to keep Aunt Clara away from Cousin Jay. I can't have any drama at my wedding." It was like walking into a minefield instead of a planning session with my sister. As my feelings of resentment grew, I started expressing my concerns about the budget. Mia had obviously invested a lot of money in the wedding, and I didn't understand why. It felt excessive for a casual gathering of friends and family. I sat her down one day and explained how I thought weddings had turned into extravagant shows filled with societal pressures. "Mia, have you thought about what you and Ben actually want instead of the spectacle of it all?" Mia's face went cold. "That's easy for you to say. You're not planning a wedding. You don't understand what it means to have a perfect day." Her outburst hurt, but as I tried to explain my points, we went in circles until I finally just conceded. A part of me craved to be supportive. The other part ached from the emotional toll she was exacting on me. Soon, the tipping point arrived. I was at a job that required my full attention one Tuesday morning when I received a frantic phone call from Mia. "Aaron, the florist just hit me with some bad news and I need you. Can you get here now?" I had back-to-back client meetings and couldn't drop everything. "I'm really sorry, Mia. Can we talk about it later?" "I swear I'll help you as soon as I'm free," I pleaded, trying to keep my tone level. When I finally got off the phone, my heart sank. I could see what was about to unfold, and in that moment, I made the decision to step back completely. I sent Mia a text message explaining that I felt overwhelmed and needed to focus on my own mental health and work for a while. I hoped she'd understand, but that's not how it went down. She exploded on social media. A barrage of posts detailing the lack of support from her sister flooded her account, painting me as the unsupportive sibling who had chosen work over family. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I thought she understood my struggles. Soon, after family members began reaching out, "Aaron, what's going on with you and Mia? She's hurt." "Can't you at least help her out a little more?" I wanted to scream. "What about my feelings?" Instead, I could only reply with half-hearted reassurances while feeling my heartbreak. Then came the wedding day. I stood nervously behind the crowd, watching as Mia walked down the aisle in a dress that was stunning, yet wholly different from what she had initially envisaged. I felt sadness rolling like a tidal wave, skimming over the joy of a day I had. Once long anticipated, I fully expected Mia to be a glowing bride, and amidst the chaotic planning, she became one. But my absence weighed heavily on my mind. I watched as Ben's face lit up when he saw her. I saw my parents cheering as if they'd just won a prize they'd spent years waiting for, and I felt lost. Because in that moment, all I could think about was how the bond we once cherished had turned into a transactional relationship. I was a ghost at her wedding, and while everyone celebrated, I quietly mourned our lost connection. After the ceremony, Mia and I eventually drifted together amidst the dancing and laughter. My anxiety bubbled up as I tried to reach her. "Mia," I said, throat dry. "Can we talk?" I waved her to a quieter corner and she followed, fuming. "You've made this entire day about you, haven't you?" she snapped, her eyes ablaze with anger. "I can't believe you'd do this." I could feel tears pricking at my eyes, but I didn't want to break down in front of her. I never meant to hurt you. I was getting overwhelmed, and I thought taking a step back would. No. You just wanted to make it about your job, your excuses. Do you have any idea how difficult this is for me? I stopped in my tracks, feeling the weight of her words. No, I don't. But I'm trying to be there for you. I promise it wasn't about my work. It was about my sanity. But she was done listening. With that, she turned and walked away. Alone in the midst of celebration, I felt utterly defeated. Now that I've had several weeks of retrospect, I still feel lost. Was I wrong to step back from something that was beginning to feel toxic? Was Mia right to expect my support no matter? The cost? I keep replaying the conversations in my head and wish I could find a way to mend what feels irreparable. Anyway, Reddit aita for choosing my mental health and stepping back during my sister's wedding planning. Aita for not attending my sister's wedding. After she kicked me out of her house, I've been debating whether to write this post for a while now, but it seems like the internet might be my last resort. Maybe I just need some clarity, or maybe just a place to vent a little. Either way, here's my story. My name is Emily, and for as long as I can remember, my life has been intertwined with my sister Rachel's. We grew up in a small town where the dynamic of our relationship consisted of shared dreams, petty squabbles, and a close bond that felt unbreakable. That was until the incident, what I now refer to as the day it all changed. It started about 6 months ago. Rachel, who has always been the most ambitious of us two, got engaged to Mark. They had planned to marry in a picturesque vineyard outside of our hometown. Everything seemed perfect, and while my relational status can best be summed up as perpetually single, I was genuinely thrilled for her. I always thought that weddings could either bring out the best or the worst in families. This one was about to show me the worst. Things took a turn when Rachel announced their marriage was being planned for the first weekend of September. I had promised my best friend Lucy months prior that I would attend her destination wedding in New Orleans on the same weekend. I figured it wouldn't be a huge deal, as I naturally assumed Rachel would understand my prior commitment. But the moment I told her about my scheduling conflict, Rachel's face turned from giddy bride-to-be to a storm cloud. "What do you mean you can't come?" she snapped. "It's my wedding. Don't you care about me?" I was taken aback by her reaction. "Of course I care about you, but Lucy has been my best friend since kindergarten. There's no way I can miss her wedding." Rachel's demeanor shifted. One moment she was hurt, and the next she was lashing out like a wounded animal. "You know Lucy isn't family. You've always put her before me. I can't believe you'd choose her over my wedding." I tried to explain myself further, but each word seemed to dig my grave deeper. It was as if no rationale could penetrate the wall she had built in that moment. She ended the conversation with a look of pure betrayal, a hollowed expression that shattered my heart. Days passed without communication, which was painful for both of us. I missed her, but couldn't shake the feeling that I had stood my ground. When I finally reached out to her a week later, I got hit with an ultimatum. Attend my wedding, or don't bother coming back to my house ever again. Suddenly, the woman who used to be my confidant was putting me on trial, taking my love and commitment and twisting them into weapons against me. "What have I done to deserve this?" I whispered to myself, the tears stinging my eyes. Still, I didn't resolve my conflict. I politely declined Rachel's invitation to the wedding. After the colossal fallout of our argument, I believed it would be for the best. I thought that perhaps with time we could mend this rift, even if it meant enduring her wedding from a distance. As fate would have it, the day of Rachel's wedding was the day Lucy's wedding took place. Immediately upon arriving in New Orleans, I regretted my decision. Everywhere I turned, there were weddings. And there I was, wearing a beautiful dress that felt entirely out of place in the sultry air. I barely enjoyed my time at Lucy's wedding, half of my mind constantly mapping out the last-minute preparations at Rachel's ceremony. Throughout the night, I received multiple text messages from family members. "Sorry you missed Rachel's wedding," read one. Then another. "She looked beautiful." I felt the bite of guilt gnaw at me. I was missing the most significant day of my sister's life. Despite my gut feeling, I couldn't shake the sense that I had done the right thing. I was loyal to Lucy, who had been there for me through thick and thin, reminding me that I too deserved to be celebrated. But in the back of my mind, I kept hearing that voice of Rachel, the one of hurt and accusation. By the time I returned to our hometown a week later, things had taken an even sharper turn. Pictures from Rachel's wedding filled social media, all filled with smiles, laughter, and familial hugs. I felt like a ghost hovering on the fringes of my sister's life. I was convinced that attending the wedding would have been betrayal, not solely to Rachel, but also to my principles about loyalty. But that was before I received a text from Rachel that would change everything. I see you decided to ignore the invitation. I've already kicked you out of my life. Congratulations, you've made your choice. Stunned was an understatement. In that moment, I felt an overwhelming wave of betrayal wash over me. I had been a part of her life from the very beginning. How could she dismiss me so easily? Every family event since then has been a minefield. I saw family members act as if Rachel's and my relationship had never existed, as if I had never been a part of their lives. I received sympathy from many of my relatives, but it never felt like enough as the silence from Rachel remained ever present. A week later, we had our family's annual summer barbecue, an event I'd always cherished. As I stood awkwardly watching the scene unfold, Rachel arrived with her new husband, Mark. The air thickened with discomfort, and I could see her gaze avoiding me. But then something snapped within me. Perhaps it was the sting of the hurt, or the realization that my sister's life had moved on without me, but I approached her. "Rachel," I began, my words faltering. "I'm really sorry about everything that happened. I wish I could have been there." She met my gaze intensely, her ice-cold expression sending a shiver down my spine. "You chose to abandon me. This is the consequence." Ignoring her seems more substantial and easier than approaching for reconciliation, yet there I was standing close to the very person I thought would be my forever line. "Please, can we just talk?" "I miss you so much." Rachel glanced away, her focus returning to Mark, who gave me a judgmental glare. "What's there to talk about? You made your choice." She turned her back to me and walked away. I was left standing there, feeling like a fool, even more so with the small crowd that had gathered to witness the awkwardness. I ended the day feeling hollow, wondering where we could go from here. Was I really the villain in this story? Had I truly chosen my best friend over my sister? Every time I replay the events in my head, guilt grips me. I felt like I was stuck in a looping record, unable to make peace with my actions. I decided to seek answers. I reached out to my parents and various family members, asking them to share their perspectives about my situation. I learned that Rachel had become increasingly controlling in recent years, especially since her engagement. Several family members confirmed that they noticed a pattern with Rachel becoming increasingly singular in her focus, as if anyone outside her immediate sphere became lesser. A part of me still felt that I had a role in this mess, though. One. That was more complicated than merely choosing one family member over another. I couldn't shake the doubt that, while love between families is meant to be unconditional, it often becomes conditional when it comes to events that deeply affect one's life. Then I remembered what Lucy had said to me in the lead-up to that fateful wedding weekend. "Emily, you have to look out for yourself too. Sometimes weddings turn family against family." Her words rang in my ears. Were they truly worth the sacrifices that come with them? In any case, I had no choice but to accept the pain and try, and carve a new path in my life away from Rachel. It was fair to say I had lost more than just a sister. I had lost a critical part of my own identity. Each time I saw her name in my contacts, my heart clenched with mixed emotions. The months drifted on, each one a harsh reminder of a sibling love lost to pride and misunderstandings. But deep down, I dreamed of the day when we could bridge this gap, and I could tell her how much she meant to me beyond our quarrel. Then came the news that turned my life upside down. Rachel had a baby. The announcement arrived out of the blue. I felt the flood of emotions mixed with a pang of longing. How could I not be a part of this new life? Feeling compelled to make a move, I took a deep breath and reached out one last time. Rachel, congratulations on your beautiful baby girl. I'm so happy for you. The eeriness of silence echoed louder than words. Hours turned into days with no response. Despite feeling overwhelmed by emotions, all I could draw was hope, a faint thread that perhaps someday, in a world where forgiveness and understanding could reign, we would find each other again. Until that day came, though, I vowed to move forward with my life, carrying the fractured memory of a sister I once cherished and holding on to a renewed spirit of hope. So, Reddit, aita for prioritizing my best friend's wedding over my sister's, and now struggling with a decision that has left a rift too painful to mend? Aita for refusing to help my sister with her wedding planning? When I first opened Reddit and stumbled upon the Am I the Asshole community, I never thought I'd find myself needing to type out my own story. But here I am, sitting in my cramped apartment with coffee stains on my chaos of a desk, the laptop screen reflecting a mixture of anxiety and necessity. It's been 4 weeks since my sister Mia announced her engagement. We used to be so close, but the distance that grew between us over the years has now culminated in a familial standoff. So here's my story. I'll start with a little background. My name is Alex and I'm 30. I'm single and working at a non-profit firm that promotes mental health awareness. It's not a glamorous job, but it's fulfilling. Mia, on the other hand, just turned 28 and is engaged to her college sweetheart, Ethan, who works in marketing. They're the quintessential couple, always plastered on social media showing off their perfect lives. And while I'm genuinely happy for Mia, I can no longer ignore the reality of our strained relationship. The drama escalated when Mia came to me for help with her wedding planning. I should have been elated, instead dread washed over me. The truth is, I've had anxiety about weddings ever since our parents' disastrous divorce. Mia, in her blissful ignorance, seemed to see this as an opportunity for us to bond and share something special. But all I could think about was how her vision of a perfect wedding overlapped with everything I detested from my past. The day she brought it up was typical, cloudy but warm. I was curled up on my couch trying to enjoy the remnants of coffee. From the morning when my phone buzzed with an incoming FaceTime call from Mia, I sighed, attempting to shake off the feeling of impending doom, and answered, "Hey Alex, I'm so excited." Her voice danced through the screen, a sparkly engagement ring on full display. "Hey, congratulations again, Mia," I smiled, genuinely trying to share her enthusiasm. "How's it all going?" "It's amazing. I'm so excited about planning. The wedding, I want everything to be perfect. I need your help. As my big sister, I thought you could help me." The moment she said it, my mind raced back to the vivid memories of our parents screaming at each other over wedding plans for their 20th anniversary. I felt the walls closing in as her bright enthusiasm clashed with the shadows of my past. "Mia, honestly, I'm not sure I can help you with that," I said hesitantly. "What do you mean?" "You're the most creative person I know. Plus, you've been to so many weddings. You have to have ideas." She leaned in closer to the screen, her green eyes sparkling with anticipation. I just really don't like weddings," I forced out, my heart pounding. "Last time I helped plan one, it didn't go well." "Oh, come on. It's not just about the actual wedding. It's supposed to be a fun experience. Please, Alex." Her pleading was relentless. I felt the familiar twinge of guilt twist in my stomach. "Mia, you know, weddings bring up a lot for me," I confessed, hoping she would understand. But instead of being understanding, she flipped the script. "So now it's about you? This is my wedding. You're being selfish. It's a big moment in my life, and you're making it about your old trauma." A few awkward seconds of silence passed before I responded. "I'm not trying to make it about me. I just don't think I can do this." Her face fell. "Fine, Alex. I get it. I thought you'd support me, but you're just going to leave me to figure this out alone. Thanks." Before I could respond, she hung up on me. I stared through the screen, empty and wary, as the ghost of the conversation lingered in the air. I didn't know how to fix this. I didn't know if I wanted to. The following weeks were filled with mixed messages. Mia and I hadn't spoken. After that confrontation, not even a text. I saw her social media posts constantly about her wedding preparations, and I felt like an outsider looking in. My phone buzzed with group messages from our family, a casual vibe that bristled with unspoken tension. It was as if Mia had turned her back on me. After about a week, our mother called. "Alex, have you heard from Mia? She's upset." "She feels like you abandoned her," she said, her voice soft and filled with concern. "I didn't abandon her, Mom. I can't do it. I can't help her plan a wedding." I wanted to scream, but instead, I just sounded exhausted. "Alex, you're her sister. This is important to her. Can't you at least try?" And there it was, the same dagger twisted deeper into my heart. You don't understand. Weddings remind me of everything that went wrong. Mia has everything figured out. She's the one that wants a grand event, and I'm the one with the baggage. There was a long pause. "Maybe it's time to face your baggage, dear, for Mia." When the conversation ended, I attacked my work. As a distraction, I buried myself in reports and meetings, acknowledging my growing detachment from my family. I suppose I wanted to lost myself in the chaos, but that only pushed me further from them. The burden of guilt began to haunt me at night, feeding on my heart and soul, gnawing at my thoughts. Then one particularly tiring day, a message pinged on my phone. It was a long one from Mia. We hadn't engaged for nearly 2 weeks, and the moment I saw her name, I felt a rush of emotions. Fear, anger, remorse. "Alex, I know we're at an impasse, but this is important to me. You always tell me how mental health matters and how we shouldn't shy away from talking about our feelings. I need my sister. Will you at least meet me for coffee? We can talk. I miss you." In truth, the knot in my chest loosened just a bit, but I still hesitated. Eventually, self-doubt overpowered my refusal, and I agreed to meet. We chose a cozy cafe in our old neighborhood, and I arrived early, fidgeting with everything on my plate, stirring the sugar into my coffee, absently tracing the lines in my receipt. When she arrived, the tension was palpable. Mia looked beautiful, as always, embodying radiant joy, and yet I could see the crack in her smile. We awkwardly greeted each other, and I followed her to a small table by the window. The feeling of impending confrontation hung over us. "I'm glad you came," she said, breaking the silence. "It feels good to see you." "Yeah, I didn't want to keep ignoring you," I admitted, forcing a small smile. We exchanged small talk, but as the minutes passed, the focus of the conversation shifted to the wedding. "I know you're struggling. Can you at least tell me what's bothering you?" she asked, leaning forward with hope in her eyes. It's just all of it. Weddings, happy moments, they feel tainted with our past." My voice trembled as I spoke. Mom and Dad fought for so long, and their portrayal of love seemed like such a sham. I didn't want to be a part of that pain. Mia's expression softened, and for a moment I saw my sister looking at me for who I really was. "Alex, I didn't know how deep our past hurt you. I thought you'd want to help because, well, we've always shared things together. I've been so wrapped up in my emotions that I didn't consider how you felt." I took a deep breath. "You were right when you said I was selfish. But hurting doesn't just go away. I want to love you, support you, but my baggage pulls me back." Mia nodded, her eyes brimming with emotion. "I want you to be there for me. As my sister, not just my planner, I need support. Let's find a way to make this work. You don't have to confront those feelings alone. I'll help you." Her vulnerability unraveled the tension between us, and suddenly, the walls I'd built began to crumble. We talked for hours, sharing stories of our childhood, reminiscing about happier times, and threading dreams both broken and restored. In that small cafe, the barriers we had imposed on each other slowly fell away. Eventually, our conversation drifted back to the wedding, which turned into brainstorming ideas that didn't feel overwhelming. It felt like collaboration. Instead of practicing the role of the critical planner, I found pure excitement. Our shared laughter echoed through our table as we doodled potential themes on napkins, swapping goofy ideas and rekindling our bond. As we left the cafe with warm hearts and empty coffee cups, I realized this experience wasn't about my baggage or her wedding, it was about healing. I felt relieved, free, and most importantly, connected again, like I'd taken off a weight I hadn't realized I carried for so long. Returning home, the anxiety that once consumed me slowly morphed into hope. I don't know what the future holds for Mia and Ethan's wedding, but I do know that family matters a lot more than the looming fear of the past. As I typed my story for Reddit, sharing my experience, I pondered the question, am I the asshole? Maybe I was at first, but I chose growth and connection over fear. And perhaps through this experience I might not only reclaim the love of my sister, but also my understanding of love itself. A beautiful, imperfect, and hopeful journey worthy of sharing. Aita for cutting ties with my family over their disrespect for my choices. I never thought I'd be writing this on Reddit, but here I am, asking for some outside perspective on a situation that has been eating me alive. I'm almost 30, so I know I should probably have my life together by now, but if I'm being honest, I've spent much of my early adulthood trying to please my family. After a recent crisis, I'm starting to question if that's been worth it. To give you some context, I grew up in a small town where everyone knew everyone. My family is what you'd call traditional. My parents have been married for over 30 years, my siblings all have conventional jobs, and they expect the same from me. While I can appreciate their lifestyle, I've always felt a little different. To put it succinctly, I love art. I found solace in painting when I was a kid, and that passion followed me through high school and college. I went to art school, and let's just say it wasn't a decision that was met with much enthusiasm from my family. They wanted me to pursue something more practical, like accounting or teaching. But I chose to follow my heart and graduated with a fine arts degree. After college, I struggled to find my footing in the art world. The romantic notion of being a starving artist collided with grim reality. I took a job at a gallery, hoping to make connections and eventually show my work. The pay wasn't great, but I was fueled by passion. I painted every night, pouring my soul into canvases that spoke of my struggles and dreams. About a year ago, I had a breakthrough. I was invited to participate in a local exhibit, a small but prestigious event that showcased up-and-coming artists. I grabbed the opportunity with both hands, spending countless late nights perfecting my pieces. When the exhibit finally opened, I was both terrified and exhilarated. To my surprise, I sold 2 paintings that night. I felt on top of the world, achieving something my family had always doubted I could. But when I called home to share the news, my excitement was met with silence. Instead of the congratulatory responses I had hoped for, I was met with disappointment, mixed with skepticism. "That's nice, but are you ever going to find a real job?" my father asked, a question I thought would never go away. Days turned into weeks, and the conversations with my family became increasingly strained. They wanted me to come to family dinners, but whenever I did, the topic would inevitably turn to my career choices. My siblings would share stories of their jobs and their children, while I sat quietly, trying to avoid the inevitable discussions about how art isn't really a career. As the months passed, I began to pull away. I hated feeling like I had to defend myself constantly. One Sunday afternoon, I decided that I needed to stand up for myself. I invited my parents over to my studio, hoping for a more constructive dialogue. I wanted them to see my work up close and understand my passion. Once they arrived, I felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. I led them through my small but vibrant space, filled with canvases of landscape paintings and abstract pieces. I felt vulnerable, showing them the culmination of my dreams, but I hoped they would see the hard work that lay behind it. As we moved through the studio, my mother raised an eyebrow at one of my more abstract pieces. "What does this even mean? It looks like you just splashed paint on a canvas," she said dismissively. Her words felt like a punch in the gut, and I mustered all the courage I had. "Mom, that's the point. It's about expressing emotions, not making something pretty." That triggered a heated debate. My parents challenged the worth of my work, citing the statistics on artists who never make it. They said that success was important and I was wasting my potential. At that moment, something snapped inside me. Maybe success looks different for everyone, I shot back, my voice trembling. Maybe art isn't just a job, it's a part of who I am. The conversation spiraled downward, filled with accusations and tears. They didn't seem to realize how much this hurt me, how deeply their lack of support cut into my soul. By the time they left, I felt utterly defeated, and the next day, I made the decision to cut ties. I sent a message to my family explaining that I needed space to focus on my art without the weight of their opinions suffocating me. That was 6 months ago. Let me clarify. I felt relieved at first. I poured myself into painting, dedicating myself to my work, and taking on various small projects. I even hosted another exhibit that attracted more attention than I ever expected, including some positive feedback from local critics. Yet, as time passed, the loneliness crept in. I had distanced myself from the people who had once been my cheerleaders. In life, despite their critical nature, I missed family dinners, birthday parties, and the regular banter that had marked our relationships. To this day, my phone stays silent. Not a text or a call, not even a happy birthday greeting this past year. I thought I was doing the right thing. After all, I needed to honor my choices and fight for what I believed in. But then doubt started to seep in. Was I too harsh? Should I have just listened to their concerns instead of shutting them out? The more I thought about it, the more conflicted I became. This internal turmoil reached its peak when I burst into tears while preparing for my next exhibit. I realized that as much as I'd fought for my independence, I was also craving my family's approval and connection, something that I had dismissed as toxic, but perhaps wasn't entirely so. Was I the bad guy for wanting to chase my dreams, or was I the bad guy for rejecting a family who had always wanted what they thought was best for me? And so, Reddit, here I am, aita for cutting ties with my family over their lack of support for my artistic dreams. I'm torn between wanting to stand up for myself and feeling guilty for severing the bonds that had shaped who I am. Some moments later, I posted the story on Reddit. Watching the upvotes started to climb felt like a strange validation as I sat in my studio, canvases swaying with the draft. I felt seen. I could only hope that maybe, somewhere in this chaos, I would find a clear path forward, whether that led back to my family or deeper into my art. Aita for refusing to support my sister's high-end wedding when she drained our parents' savings. I've been on Reddit for years, but I've never actually posted anything until now. Frankly, I didn't think I would ever find myself in a situation that might warrant it, but here we are. I'm in quite the pickle, and I might just need the help of the infamous aita community to see if I'm in the right or if I've completely lost the plot. Let me give you a little background. I'm 28, working as a middle school teacher, and I take pride in my financial independence. I've managed to save some money, and I generally live within my means. My sister Lily is 24, and she's always lived a different kind of life. She's been pretty much dependent on our parents ever since she graduated high school. Now, I love her, but her decision-making skills have always left something to be desired. This year, Lily got engaged to her high school sweetheart, Matt. They've been together for nearly 6 years, and when they announced their plans for a high-end wedding, I tried to be supportive. They wanted something extravagant that would showcase their love and commitment, and while I did think it was a little over the top, I kept my opinions to myself. Well, until things spiraled out of control. The wedding planning started off innocent enough. They wanted to throw a beautiful event at a luxury venue, complete with a designer dress, gourmet catering, and a photographer who could charge 5 figures. I knew that such an affair would be expensive, but I encouraged Lily to save, to budget. However, my sister didn't listen to my advice, and instead drained our parents' savings for her wedding. Our parents are in their late 50s and have worked hard their entire lives for what little they have, yet it seemed like they didn't voice objections, probably because they wanted to see their daughter happy. Around the same time, I discovered that Lily was asking our parents to keep giving her money for little things too, like fancy brunches and throw-me-a-bones kind of stuff that she claimed were essentials for her wedding planning. This was on top of the main fund they had already contributed. I felt a pit deep in my stomach every time I heard my parents mention another expense they had covered for her, and I wasn't sure how to voice those concerns. Fast forward a few months, and it was time for my parents' anniversary. They wanted a small celebration at home with just family. It was quaint, heartwarming, and very much what they desired. But when Lily found out I couldn't make it because of a prior engagement, she exploded. She claimed that I didn't care for our family and that I was sabotaging her wedding preparations. It was the first time where I felt our relationship was fragile. That's when it happened. A couple of weeks later, Lily called me, her voice quivering through the phone, demanding that I help her pay for the wedding. My stomach dropped, and I had to take a deep breath to contain my anger. "You're asking me to contribute for something that's draining Mom and Dad's savings?" I questioned. "It's their money," she insisted. "They want to help." And that's where things went south. I took a stand. I refused to let myself be dragged into the financial chaos that my parents were willing to entertain. I told her I couldn't support financially what I believed to be irresponsible behavior. A huge fight ensued, and she hung up, her sobs echoing through my ear. In the days following that argument, things settled into a tense silence. I received texts from Lily that made me feel like a villain. She called me selfish and heartless for not wanting to support her dream day. Yet my conscience wouldn't allow me to unconditionally back her financially, especially knowing the toll it had taken on our parents. A week later, I met my parents for coffee, sitting across from them as they wore expressions of worry. "We know you've had a falling out with Lily," my dad said, ever the benevolent peacemaker. "It's just a wedding. Can't you just help her out?" "Dad, this wedding is more than a celebration of love. It's draining all of your savings," I explained. The concern in my mom's eyes twisted my stomach. She tried to reassure me by saying they were using their savings, not necessarily planning for retirement. I felt trapped in my seat, heart racing as the weight of the family dynamic settled on my shoulders. Days turned into weeks. Lily reached out occasionally, but I remained distant, still hoping that she would eventually realize the consequences of her financial decisions. I would see her vibrant posts on social media, the bridal fittings, venue visits, and more extravagant expenses paraded in front of my eyes like a postcard from a world that no longer felt like it belonged to me. Then came the inevitable. A week before the wedding, I received a call from Lily, her voice low and urgent. "Can you at least come to the wedding?" she asked, almost pleading. "It wouldn't feel complete without you." It was a tempting offer, but I knew I was standing on principles. I wasn't about to support a lavish event that I fundamentally disagreed with. That day, I posted about the ordeal on Reddit in a desperate attempt to gauge my stance. I feared judgment for not being the supportive sister everyone assumed I should be. Much to my surprise, the responses began pouring in. "NTA," the overwhelming consensus proclaimed. "Lily's behavior is toxic. She's taking advantage of your parents." I felt a flicker of relief, but it was soon followed by guilt. Had I abandoned my sister when she needed me most? As I navigated through those comments, something hit me. I had to speak to Lily one more time before the wedding. I needed her to hear my perspective, the financial strain, the obligation, and how love shouldn't solely rest on a grand display that our parents couldn't afford. The day arrived. I made my way to the venue, my heart pounding in my chest. I remembered the dreams my sister had shared ever since she could talk, the fairy tale weddings we discussed while watching Disney movies, and the bond of love we forged as sisters through all the heartbreaks life threw our way. When I saw her in that breathtaking white dress, she looked radiant, completely euphoric. But my heart was still shackled to the worries that lay beneath the surface of her smile. I approached her quietly, cupping her face in my hands. "You look beautiful," I whispered, and it was true. Her smile faded just a touch as I felt the tension between us. "You came," she uttered, her voice trembling. "I thought you were going to ditch me." I would never abandon my sister. I replied firmly, "but we need to talk." Her eyes widened, and we stole a moment between family gatherings and congratulations. It took time, but as I expressed my concern about her finances and her obligations to our parents, we slowly started to bridge the gap between us. It was a tough conversation, and there were tears, frustration, and hurt feelings on both sides, but there was also love, the kind that kept us tethered despite the chaos that swirled around. In the end, I couldn't help but attend the wedding. It wasn't the grand event I envisioned, but seeing Lily genuinely happy made me reconsider everything I felt about the situation. By confronting the issues head-on, I was reminded of how our family has a tapestry woven with understanding, love, and sacrifice. As I left the event, looking over my shoulder to see Lily dancing with Matt amidst laughter, I felt lighter. I didn't have all the answers, but I knew one thing. Family is messy, it's often complicated, and while I may not always agree with my sister or her choices, I would always be there to support her through the ups, downs, and fairy tale twists of life. So, aita? Did I betray the role of the supportive sister, or did I do what was right in a tumultuous situation? I posed this question to myself as I strolled away from the celebration, knowing it would take more than just a single wedding to redefine our bond. In the end, love is never perfect, but it's always worth fighting for. Am I the asshole? A family reunion. Nightmare. I'm writing this anonymously, hoping to get some perspective on a situation that's been eating away at me for weeks. It involves my family, specifically my sister, her husband, and their 2 kids. We all gathered for a family reunion at my parents' house, which was supposed to be a joyous occasion. Instead, it turned into a disaster, and I'm still trying to process what happened. The background: my sister Rachel and I have always been close, despite our differences. She's a free spirit, always chasing her dreams, while I'm more practical, focusing on stability. We've had our disagreements, but we've always managed to work things out. Her husband, Alex, is a bit of a control freak, but I've learned to tolerate him for Rachel's sake. Their kids, Emily and Jack, are sweethearts, and I adore them. The reunion was planned months in advance, and everyone was excited. My parents were looking forward to seeing their grandkids and catching up with us. However, things started to go awry from the moment Rachel and her family arrived. The incident, it began with a seemingly harmless comment from Alex. During dinner, he made a joke about my career choices, implying that I was stuck in a dead-end job. I brushed it off, thinking it was just his usual sarcasm, but then he started lecturing me about how I should be more ambitious, like Rachel. That's when I lost my cool. I told him that maybe if he spent less time criticizing others and more time supporting his own family, they wouldn't be struggling financially. Rachel jumped in, defending Alex, saying I was being unfair. The argument escalated with my parents trying to intervene, but failing miserably. The final straw was when Alex said that if I was really committed to my family, I would help them out financially. I felt like he was crossing a line, so I told him that if he wanted to discuss financial responsibilities, maybe he should start by taking care of his own family before asking others for help. The fallout: the room fell silent. Rachel looked at me with tears in her eyes, and Alex stormed out, leaving the rest of us in an uncomfortable silence. My parents tried to smooth things over, but it was too late. The tension was palpable, and the rest of the reunion was awkward. After dinner, Alex and Rachel barely spoke to me. When I tried to apologize and explain my side, they shut me down, saying I was being insensitive. The kids were confused and upset, sensing the tension between the adults. The next day, Alex sent me a message saying that I had ruined the reunion and that they wouldn't be attending any family gatherings if I was going to be there. Rachel didn't respond to my messages, and when I tried calling her, she hung up on me. The aftermath: it's been weeks since the reunion, and things haven't improved. My parents are caught in the middle, trying to mediate but feeling helpless. I've tried reaching out to Rachel several times, but she's not responding. I've even offered to help them financially, hoping it might ease the tension, but there's been no response. I'm left wondering if I was in the wrong. Was I too harsh? Should I have just let Alex's comments slide? I feel like I stood up for myself, but at what cost? Now my relationship with my sister and her family is strained, and I don't know how to fix it. Conclusion. So, Reddit, am I the asshole? Was I justified in standing up for myself, or should I have taken the high road and ignored Alex's jabs? I'm genuinely seeking your input because I'm torn between feeling proud of defending myself and regretful for the hurt I may have caused. Edit. I've been seeing a lot of comments saying I should have just ignored Alex, and that standing up for myself wasn't worth the drama. Others are saying that Alex was out of line and that I had every right to respond. I appreciate all the perspectives, but I'm still unsure. Maybe I was too sensitive, or maybe Alex was just being his usual condescending self. I guess what I'm looking for is not just a judgment, but some advice on how to move forward. Should I try to mend things with Rachel and her family, or should I give them space? Any stories or experiences you can share would be helpful. Update. I've had a few people suggest that I should apologize to Alex and Rachel, even if I don't feel entirely at fault. They say it might help smooth things over, and that sometimes apologizing can be a gesture of goodwill rather than an admission of guilt. I'm considering it, but part of me feels like I'd be apologizing for standing up for myself. I'm still open to any advice or insights you can offer. This situation has been weighing on me, and I hope to find a way to resolve it soon. Final thoughts. As I close this post, I'm left with more questions than answers. Was I the asshole for standing up to Alex, or was I justified in defending myself? I hope that by sharing my story I might find some clarity, or at least learn from your experiences. Thank you for reading, and I look forward to your thoughts. Aita, for expecting my partner to prioritize our family over their own. I've been married to my wonderful partner Alex for 5 years now. We have 2 beautiful children, and our life together has been a dream come true. However, our relationship has been put to the test lately, and I'm not sure if I'm being unreasonable or not. Alex comes from a big, close-knit family. They have a weekly family dinner that everyone is expected to attend. It's a tradition that's been going on for years, and Alex has always been very involved. I respect that and have always tried to be supportive, even when it means adjusting our own family plans. The problem started when Alex's parents announced that they were moving to a new city. The family is very tight, and this move was a big deal for them. Alex's parents asked everyone to come help with the move and to spend some quality time together before they left. Alex was excited to help and immediately started making plans to take time off work and travel with the kids and me to assist. However, things got complicated when I realized that this trip would coincide with my own family's annual reunion. My family has been planning this reunion for months, and it's a big deal for us. We don't get to see each other often, and this is one of the few times we all come together. My parents are getting older, and I feel like these moments are precious. When I told Alex about the conflict, they were understanding at first. They suggested that maybe we could do both, but I knew that wouldn't be feasible. The move was going to take a few days, and my family's reunion was also a weekend-long event. I felt like we had to choose. Alex's family is very demanding, and they always expect everyone to prioritize their needs. I've noticed that whenever there's a conflict, Alex tends to side with their family. This has caused tension between us in the past, but I've always tried to be patient and understanding. This time, however, I felt like I needed to stand up for my own family. I told Alex that I couldn't just skip my family's reunion. I explained how important it was for me and how much I wanted our children to spend time with their grandparents on my side. Alex was taken aback. They said that their family needed us right now and that we couldn't just abandon them. They felt like we were being selfish by not prioritizing their family's needs. I tried to explain that this wasn't about being selfish. It was about being fair and respecting both families' traditions. The argument escalated, and we both said things we didn't mean. Alex felt like I was being unreasonable and not considering their family's feelings. I felt like Alex was not respecting my family's needs and was once again prioritizing their own family over mine. We didn't resolve the issue that day. Instead, we decided to take some time to think about it and discuss it later when we were both calmer. The days passed, and the tension between us grew. I could see the stress in Alex's eyes, and I knew they were feeling torn. One evening, as we were getting the kids ready for bed, Alex came to me and said, "I've been thinking a lot about this, and I realize that I've been prioritizing my family's needs over yours for too long. I want to make it right. How about we compromise? We can go to your family's reunion, and then I'll take the kids to help my family with the move afterwards." I was surprised and touched by Alex's willingness to compromise. It showed me that they were truly listening and trying to find a solution that worked for both of us. I agreed to the plan, and we both felt a weight lift off our shoulders. 3. Reunion was wonderful. We spent quality time with my family, and the kids had a blast. Afterwards, Alex took the kids to help with the move, and I stayed behind to catch up on some work. Looking back, I realized that I might have been too rigid initially. I should have been more open to finding a compromise sooner. But at the same time, I feel like I was right to stand up for my family's needs. It was important for Alex to see that our family matters just as much as theirs. So, Reddit aita for expecting Alex to prioritize our family over their own? Or was I right to stand up for what I believe in? Edit. I've received a lot of feedback, and I appreciate all the different perspectives. Some of you have pointed out that I should have been more flexible from the start, while others think I was right to prioritize my family. I guess what I learned from this experience is that communication and compromise are key in relationships. Thanks for sharing your thoughts. Update. Alex and I have been talking a lot about this, and we've come to a better understanding. We've realized that we need to find a balance between our family's needs. We're working on setting boundaries and communicating more effectively. It's not always easy, but we're committed to making it work. Thanks for all the advice and support. My brother's wedding and the uninvited guest. I'm writing this story from a place of confusion and a dash of guilt, hoping that the collective wisdom of Reddit can help me figure out if I was in the wrong. So, here goes. It was supposed to be the happiest day of my brother's life. His wedding. Our family had been planning it for months, and everything was perfect. The venue, the food, the decorations. But as with all family gatherings, there's always that one person who can turn things upside down. In this case, it was my brother's best friend from college, Alex, and my brother Jack, had been inseparable since their college days. However, over the years, their friendship had cooled down significantly. The last time they spoke was about 5 years ago, after a big argument over something that seemed trivial at the time but had apparently left deep scars. Fast forward to the wedding planning phase. My brother had decided not to invite Alex, citing that their friendship had fizzled out and that he didn't want any unnecessary drama on his big day. I agreed with him. After all, it was his wedding, and he should have the final say on who attends. But here's where things get complicated. Alex found out about the wedding from a mutual friend and decided to show up uninvited. He claimed he just wanted to catch up and didn't mean to cause any trouble. However, his presence was anything but subtle. He arrived at the reception, dressed in a suit that was a bit too flashy for the occasion, and made a beeline for my brother. The tension was palpable. My brother was visibly uncomfortable, and my parents were trying to navigate the situation without causing a scene. I, on the other hand, was tasked with keeping the peace and ensuring that the wedding didn't turn into a disaster. As the evening progressed, Alex started making speeches and jokes that were clearly aimed at my brother. It was awkward, to say the least. My brother tried to brush it off, but you could tell he was seething inside. Here's where I come in. In an attempt to defuse the situation, I decided to take matters into my own hands. I approached Alex, explained the situation, and asked him politely to leave. I told him that my brother appreciated the gesture but would rather not have him there. Now here's the part where I'm not sure if I was in the right or wrong. Alex got defensive, claiming that he was just trying to make amends and that my brother was being unreasonable. He said some hurtful things about my family and how we were cold and unforgiving. I stood my ground, reiterating that it was my brother's day and we needed to respect his wishes. The situation escalated and Alex ended up storming out of the venue, leaving behind a lot of unanswered questions and unresolved tension. My brother was relieved but also visibly shaken by the encounter. After the wedding, my brother thanked me for handling the situation, but I couldn't shake off the feeling that I might have overstepped. Was I the asshole for kicking Alex out, or was I just protecting my brother's happiness? As I reflect on that day, I realize that family dynamics can be incredibly complex. Sometimes what seems like the right thing to do in the moment can be perceived differently by others. I'm hoping that by sharing this story, I can gain some perspective and maybe even a bit of closure. So, Reddit, aita for kicking Alex out of my brother's wedding? Update: I've been reading through the comments and it seems like there are mixed opinions. Some of you think I did the right thing by respecting my brother's wishes, while others believe I should have let Alex stay and tried to mediate the situation. One thing that struck me was a comment suggesting that I should have talked to my brother beforehand about how to handle Alex if he showed up. That's a fair point. Maybe if we had a plan in place, things wouldn't have escalated as much. Another commenter mentioned that sometimes people need to confront their past and work through their issues. Maybe Alex showing up was an opportunity for my brother to address some unresolved feelings. I appreciate all the feedback. It's given me a lot to think about. Perhaps I wasn't entirely in the wrong, but there were definitely other ways I could have handled the situation. Final thoughts. Writing this story has been a therapeutic experience. It's helped me see that relationships are multifaceted and that sometimes what we think is right might not be perceived that way by others. I'm grateful for the community's input and for the chance to reflect on my actions. If there's one takeaway from this experience, it's that communication is key. Maybe if Alex and my brother had talked things through years ago, or if I had spoken to my brother about how to handle the situation beforehand, things might have turned out differently. As for whether I was the asshole, I think it's a bit of both. I was trying to protect my brother's happiness, but perhaps I could have done it in a more empathetic way. Thanks again for reading, and I hope this story can serve as a reminder of the importance of understanding and communication in our relationships. Aita for cutting off my brother after he borrowed my car and got into an accident. I'm writing this story as a way to process my feelings and hopefully get some perspective from strangers on the internet. I've been dealing with a lot of guilt and anger lately, and I'm not sure if I'm being unreasonable or not. Let me start from the beginning. My brother, Alex, and I have always been close. We grew up together, sharing a room, and our parents always encouraged us to look out for each other. However, as we grew older, our relationship began to change. Alex developed a habit of relying on me for everything, from borrowing money to asking for help with his car troubles. I never minded, thinking that family is supposed to support each other. Recently, Alex asked to borrow my car for a weekend. I agreed, thinking it would be a good opportunity for him to get some errands done and maybe even visit our parents, who live a few hours away. I reminded him to be careful and to fill up the gas tank before returning it. He promised he would. The next day, I received a call from Alex. He sounded panicked and told me that he had gotten into an accident. Apparently, he was driving on the highway when another car cut him off and he lost control. The car was badly damaged, but thankfully he was okay. I was relieved to hear that he was safe, but my heart sank when I thought about the car. When I went to see the car, I was shocked. The front bumper was crushed and there were scratches all over the side. It looked like it had been through a war. Alex told me that the insurance would cover it, but I knew that wouldn't be the case. The car was old, and the insurance company would likely total it. I was angry, but I tried to keep my cool. I told Alex that we would figure it out together. However, as the days went by, I realized that Alex wasn't taking any responsibility for what happened. He kept saying that it wasn't his fault and that the other driver was to blame. I understood that accidents happen, but his lack of remorse really bothered me. Things escalated when Alex started asking me for money to help him buy a new car. I was taken aback. I had just lost my car due to his carelessness, and now he was expecting me to help him out financially? I told him that I couldn't afford it, but he kept pushing the issue. That's when I decided that I needed to set some boundaries. I told Alex that I couldn't lend him any more money and that he needed to take responsibility for his actions. He got defensive and said that I was being selfish and that family should always help each other out. I felt hurt by his words, but I stood my ground. I realized that I had been enabling his behavior for too long, and it was time for him to learn to take care of himself. I told him that I needed some space and that we should limit our interactions for a while. Now, I'm wondering if I was in the wrong. Was I being too harsh? Should I have just helped him out and moved on? I feel guilty for cutting him off, but at the same time, I feel like I need to protect myself from his toxic behavior. Aita for cutting off my brother after he borrowed my car and got into an accident. Should I have been more understanding and supportive, or was I right to set boundaries and prioritize my own well-being? Comments, throw away. 3456, YTA, you're the asshole, for cutting him off completely. Family should always support each other, even when mistakes are made. You should have found a way to work through this together. Brotherly love 90, NTA, not the asshole. You set boundaries and expected responsibility, which is fair. If he can't respect that, then maybe it's best to limit your interactions. Sisterly advice. ESH, everyone sucks here. You enabled his behavior for too long and he took advantage of that. However, cutting him off completely might not be the best approach. Maybe try having an open conversation about your feelings and expectations. My response reading through the comments, I realized that there are valid points on both sides. I understand that families should support each other, but I also believe that setting boundaries is crucial. I think I'll take the advice to have an open conversation with Alex about my feelings and expectations. Maybe we can find a way to move forward that works for both of us. Update, I decided to reach out to Alex and have that conversation. It wasn't easy, but we both expressed our feelings and concerns. He apologized for not taking responsibility sooner and promised to work on being more independent. I agreed to help him find resources to get back on his feet, but we also established clear boundaries for our relationship moving forward. It's been a few months now and things are better. We're not as close as we used to be, but our relationship is healthier. I learned that sometimes setting boundaries is necessary, even with family. And I hope that Alex has learned to take more responsibility for his actions. Final thoughts, writing this story and reading the comments has helped me process my emotions and gain a new perspective. I realize now that being a good sibling doesn't mean enabling bad behavior. It means supporting each other while also encouraging personal growth. I hope that my story can help others who are dealing with similar situations. Aita for cutting off my family. After they disrespected my fiancé, I've been posting on Reddit for years, but this is the first time I'm writing about something that's really torn me apart. It's about my family, my fiancé, and a situation that's left me questioning everything. Background, I come from a big, loud, and opinionated family. We're the kind of family where everyone has an opinion and no one is afraid to share it. Growing up, it was always a bit overwhelming, but I learned to navigate it. My parents are loving, but they can be a bit controlling. My siblings are all older, and they've always felt like they can tell me what to do. Despite all this, I've always tried to maintain a good relationship with them. About 3 years ago, I met my fiancé, Alex. He's kind, gentle, and always tries to see the best in people. We met at work, and it was love at first sight. Well, maybe not exactly, but we quickly became inseparable. Alex is from a different cultural background than me, and that's been a bit of an adjustment for my family. The incident last week, we had a family dinner at my parents' place. Alex was invited, and I was excited to share this special moment with him. However, things took a turn for the worse. My siblings started asking Alex questions about his cultural practices and traditions, which I thought was harmless at first. But it quickly escalated into a full-blown interrogation. They were asking invasive questions, making jokes about his accent, and even questioning his job choices. I tried to intervene, but my parents just sat there, smiling awkwardly, and didn't say anything to stop it. Alex was polite and tried to answer their questions, but I could see the discomfort in his eyes. I felt so ashamed and angry. Why couldn't they just be respectful? The fallout after dinner, Alex and I left early, and I could tell he was upset. On the way home, he told me how he felt disrespected and humiliated. I apologized profusely and promised to talk to my family about it. But when I brought it up with them, they just dismissed it, saying they were just joking and that Alex needed to toughen up. That was the final straw. I realized that my family wasn't going to change, and if they couldn't respect the person I love, then maybe it was time for some distance. I told them that until they could treat Alex with the respect he deserves, I wouldn't be seeing them as often. The decision? It's been a week since I made that decision, and it's been tough. My family is angry with me, saying I'm being too sensitive and that I'm abandoning them, but I know I've made the right choice. Alex and I are happy together, and that's all that matters. So, Reddit, aita, for cutting off my family after they disrespected my fiancé. Should I have just let it slide and maintained the peace, or was standing up for Alex the right thing to do? Update. I've been reading through the comments and I want to thank everyone for their support. It means a lot to me and Alex. To those who are saying I should have just talked to my family more, I understand where you're coming from, but sometimes you have to draw a line. Alex deserves respect, and if my family can't give it to him, then maybe it's best we take a break. To those who are saying I'm being selfish, I understand that perspective too. But for me, this isn't about being selfish. It's about standing up for what's right. If my family can't respect Alex, then maybe they need to learn to respect me as well. Conclusion: writing this post has been therapeutic for me. It's made me realize that sometimes you have to make tough choices to protect the people you love. I know this isn't going to be easy, but I'm willing to take this journey with Alex by my side. Thanks again, Reddit, for listening and offering your advice. Final update. It's been a few months since I posted this, and a lot has changed. Alex and I got married, and it was beautiful. My family didn't attend, which was expected, but it didn't dampen our joy. We've started building a new family with friends who accept us for who we are. It's not always easy, but it's worth it. 2. Anyone who's going through something similar, I just want to say that it's okay to stand up for yourself and the people you love. It's okay to set boundaries and prioritize your happiness. Thanks again, Reddit, for being a community that understands and supports each other.